A group has launched a more than $3 million exercise that uses artificial intelligence technology to provide data to help ascertain the numbers of elephants, animal corridors and human settlement areas around conservation areas in southern Africa.
Survey, which will be the first ever large landscape survey undertaken in this part of the world, will first of all provide us with a more reliable estimate of how many elephants we have, but most importantly as well, where they are distributed. And that distribution pattern will allow us to see where there's where do they exist in relation to human patterns of settlement, and where there might be opportunities to create corridors to allow elephants to move, and thereby try and alleviate as far as possible conflict with people.
A week-long experts training workshop to capacitate and select observers who will be part of the first ever elephant-wide area survey began Thursday in Botswana.
We're hoping to move into using new technology to replace the human eye and get hopefully the same kind of data, very good data, but it will enable us to be more consistent and have to do less training and less setup time in particular to get the surveys going. So what we're doing is taking advantage of the fact that some of these cameras have a high enough resolution for us to be able to see not only elephants but animals down to the size of a warthog as we fly over. So now we can use the photographs to count in the same way that we were counting as we flew along, but we can review the photos at our leisure and possibly pick up even more data.
The more than 2 million people who live alongside the animals have seen an increase in human-wildlife conflicts, which is attributed to an upsurge in elephant numbers, climate change and human development.
Mali's ruling junta confirmed Friday's jihadi attack against the country's largest military base, Kati. A statement released by the authorities adds the attack was repelled, resulting in 7 dead amongst the attackers and 8 arrests. This resident of Kati says he got one with his own weapons. There are 2 suspects in the pickup truck. One of them had a gun with magazines and the second had other people's ID cards on him, claims this other resident of Kati. Friday's attack on the Kati barracks follows a coordinated series of insurgent attacks on Thursday. We heard a lot of firing. Everyone was afraid. At first we thought it was a thunder ahead of rain, but then we understood it was gunfire and it was making the houses shake. The attacks have mostly been in northern Mali, but recently the extremists have moved into the center of the country. Information suggests that recently the extremists have moved closer to the capital, Bamako. In Libya's capital, Tripoli, Thursday's overnight clashes between armed groups resulted in at least 13 deaths and 30 wounded, including civilians. The fighting erupted on Thursday night in the Ain Zara neighborhood amid rising political tensions. The clashes involved 2 armed groups with major clout in the west of the war-torn country, the Al-Hada Force and the Tripoli Revolutionaries Brigade. Although fighting between armed groups is frequent, this is the first time in years that there are civilian victims. On Friday, another group, Brigade 444, intervened in order to mediate a truce, but they too fell under heavy fire and were forced to retreat. Official sources indicate that the Libyan president, Abdelhamid Dbeibah, suspended the Home Office minister. Hundreds of protesters marched on the streets of the Tunisian capital, Tunis, to protest against the president and the draft constitution. The demonstrators were met by a heavy police presence, including water cannons and riot gear. The new constitution will be voted on in a referendum on Monday. I'm worried for Tunisia. I was there for the President's Saied power grab on July 25th. I was rooting for a positive change so that we ought to account the thieves and mafia who have stolen the country. But after his power was reinforced on September 22nd, we saw his true nature. According to police sources, at least 10 people were arrested during the demonstration. Critics claim the new constitution would enshrine the vast powers that Kais Saied has exercised since he sacked the government and suspended parliament on July 25th last year. The president of Ivory Coast, Alassane Ouattara, visited South Africa on Friday. Ouattara was welcomed by his South African counterpart, President Cyril Ramaphosa, in the capital, Pretoria. The visit coincided with the UN and Turkey brokered agreement to allow Ukraine and Russia to export grain.
It has taken much too long, in my view, because that conflict has put a stop to the importation or exportation of grain, fertilizers, and other foodstuffs like wheat to various other parts of the world, and we are therefore pleased that this may indeed, in the end, become a reality. Would this be seen as signaling something that could amount to the end of that conflict? I would like to believe that, yes.
Referring to Mali, the Ivorian president rejected earlier suggestions that his country was interfering in its neighbor. The accusations were linked to the detention of a group of Ivorian soldiers accused of being mercenaries. Ivory Coast cannot afford to attempt to destabilize any country, especially not a neighboring country such as Mali. And they are the same people, the same population. The relationships are close, are very close. We use the same currency, we use the same legal framework, etc. Mali is a friendly country and brother and sister populations. Therefore, there isn't any question about us engaging in any attempt to destabilize.
Nous engager dans une quelconque tentative de déstabilisation.
During the visit to South Africa, the two presidents signed a number of agreements, and Ouattara addressed the South Africa-Ivory Coast Business Forum.